Hey, I'm Lane Daughtry of Tinkerhouse Games, and we make TinkerTurf.
What is TinkerTurf?
TinkerTurf is a pre-printed, die-cut terrain solution. So we sell it in packages like this. It comes flat pack, cardboard, but again, pre-printed. So you can take these guys out, pop them out, and assemble them, and at the end of it, you get something that looks like this. So this is one of our containers from one of the sets. This is one sheet. Wrap it around, glue it together, some clamps involved, but this is about 30 minutes worth of work to get one fully colored piece on the table that's ready to go.
It's also super light.
It is, it's medium weight, so it's not crazy. I'll let you give that a weight. The important thing is it's light, so it travels well, but this is heavy enough so it's not going to move around on the table as you smack the table around, and that's actually important for minis gaming because you don't want stuff shifting around on what you're doing.
It's lighter than polystone or plastic terrain.
It is definitely that. Like, we are not shipping rocks, essentially, or making you carry around rocks, so that part's better. The whole goal is to let people get stuff on the table quicker with full color on it, because a lot of people, myself included, you're busy, you're trying to game, trying to do a million other things, and after you assemble everything, taking the time to paint it isn't always in the cards. So we're trying to make that easier to get people to have, or let people have that sort of full color game experience we all kind of were excited about in the first place.
And so currently you have this kind of futuristic kind of 40K-esque terrain. Are you guys making, I see some, in the background, I see some fantasy stuff and cyberpunk stuff. Is that something you're working on in the future?
Yeah, so we have this is the beginning of our fantasy line, which we're going to do a cottages and castles release is what we're calling it, but really sort of villages and castles and medieval exteriors, depending on, we're going to kickstart that in January or February of this next year. Depending on stretch goals, we're trying to get to a shipyard and some ships and stuff like that as well. Then back here in the corner, you can see some buildings. That's going to be more of like an urban sprawl, sort of hab block, sci-fi type thing, kind of cyberpunky. Be a more inhabited area, whereas this, what we've made so far is kind of industrial ship or industrial container yard type area. We're going to get more to that inhabited type area. So we've got right now, honestly, we've got like 4 years worth of roadmap for products to come out with, and we just got to figure out which order we're going to do those in at this point. Hope we scale up to where we can get some going in parallel.
Was the industrial stuff, was that on Kickstarter as well?
Yep. So we kicked it, and actually I have to remember, we kicked it a year ago this January. A year ago this February, so almost 2 years ago now. Because of the complexity of the product, we were in pre-production for a while afterwards, but we finally fulfilled in March of this year and are now, starting to get into global distribution for retail and what have you. So it's being really well responded to. We're real happy with it.
What does crowdfunding open up for you like this? Would you still be able to do this without crowdfunding, do you think?
We wouldn't have been able to start it the way that we did. Like, crowdfunding allows us and a lot of other, board game developers or accessory developers to get their product in front of people and get people excited about it and get you the funding that you need to get it off the ground. Because if you're not known to the manufacturers in the first place, you got to come in and put your money up front to get the thing built. And that's scary and risky if you don't know that people are excited about it. So crowdfunding is both a means of getting that funding, but it's also a means of vetting if you're, crazy or not for thinking your idea is a good idea, because in a way the market's going to tell you, no, that's really cool, people are excited about that, maybe really excited about it, or maybe just kind of excited about it, and give you the money to figure out how far to go with the thing with your first run. So going forward, we will continue to crowdfund because it is a good way to get the product off the ground and get awareness about it out there, but we'll probably also start to do more traditional funding, which is to say just releasing a set as we get more established. So a mix of both. But to get started, it was essential.
Can you guys talk about what goes into designing, and engineering this stuff?
Yeah. So I am a game developer by trade and now software developer, but really all that comes around real-time experience development and a lot of 3D work. So I've been in 3D industry for 24 years now. So a lot of this in the first place is us prototyping everything in 3D. So we build out the forms and make sure that the forms are architected in a way that we think they will both be structurally sound, but also be able to be assembled without a lot of tedious work. And that's an interesting balance to pull between the two of them. And at that point, we actually, once we think we have something we like, we start prototyping it on a laser. So we cut our, make our die lines, and whereas the final product is going to be razor cut with a die, we have to put it on a laser and cut it out so that we can just test that it structurally works the way that we want it to. And at that point, we start doing the final artwork on top of it. Our artists are all AAA game traditional artists, I would say. So they do it all in high def, high res 3D in the first place, and then we make In the same way that you make a video game texture, we make this nice looking thing which sits on top of the flat surface to give it more depth and interest on top of the things that we're not going to cut actual shapes in. And at that point, we send it off to manufacturing, go back and forth, and it's always a back and forth once you get to manufacturing to make sure that the thing works the way that you want it to. And from there, done, and we push the button on manufacturing run and get it out to people.
And because it's cardboard and you assemble it yourself, you're able to get it to customers at a really reasonable price too.
Yeah, so that is a thing that people responded really well to. So like this starter set, which is down here, I don't know how much is in frame at the moment, is usually a $60 set, $54 set. Like this is something that to get even the plastic for it would usually be $80 to $100, or if you go with like resin or MDF, it'd be anywhere from the $70 to $100 range. And then you got to get that put on the table and paint it afterwards. So people like the fact that it's affordable, and like the fact that, in addition to being affordable, it goes on the table full color. So it's working.
Do you think you guys will eventually move to selling CAD models to 3D print pieces at home? That seems to be a trend that I'm seeing.
We are talking about it, and I don't know what the answer to that is yet, because because of the way that we generate the art in the first place, like we have our high-res models, and we are interested in possibly giving that to people. It's for a different customer than we have right now, but I think both those customers exist, and I think we can, give something to each of those customers that they like. So I think it's probable, but I don't know yet.
So obviously for tabletop gaming, RPGs, Mutants and Masterminds, D&D, what scale is it for competitive tabletop, like Warhammer, Hero Collectors, War with all that stuff?
This is, you mean like what scale is so we make this basically for between 28 to 32 millimeter gameplay, and to your point, that's all, it's usually like Warhammer and 40K and all that is. D&D usually being 25 millimeter, it's a pretty close approximation. So we have people that are definitely using this in the RPG games, which are more on the 25 millimeter scale of things. As we get to making dungeon content, like interior content for both fantasy dungeons and for like interiors of spaceships and stuff like that, we will probably stay at about this scale just to keep parity between the two product lines.
Where can they go to find more information about your future products as well as current products, and how can they support you?
Yeah, so if you want to go to tinkerhousegames.com, you can find us there, and that will link to all of our social and newsletters and what have you. Or if you just want to Google TinkerTurf, you will find us under TinkerTurf.